Today is one of those days where it's cold, but I've been inside for too long. So I'm revisiting some old places. This is one of my favorite subway stations in Toronto. This is DuPont Station. And it always seems to remind me of those BioShock games, other than the fact that it's not underwater. I decided today that I want to try out using my Sony camera a bit like if it were a Fuji camera that I usually use. So I set my camera to JPEG only mode. I adjusted the white balance to be favoring some warm colors, even though it is quite cool looking today. And I also put it on one of Sony's custom color profiles, one of their creative settings. And my intent is to just shoot as is, and if anything, only tweak the photos a little bit in post. So no raw, just as is. Today I am using the Viltrox 40mm f2.5 full frame lens. It came out a few months ago. I saw a lot of people on YouTube talking about it. And because I use the 27mm a lot on my Fujifilm camera, this is roughly what you would get in terms of field of view. And I thought that might pair up well. We'll see. One of the enemies of creativity is thinking that you always have to do a lot to yield a lot. Right now I'm in, I think is probably what would be considered the most southern part of Midtown in Toronto. So I'm not necessarily downtown, but I'm also not necessarily uptown. A lot of older buildings, a lot of places like this, like garages. What I am noticing is that there's actually some coffee shops around here. Stuff I really should be checking out. Goes to show that you should explore neighborhoods you haven't been to in a while. Like over here, these old buildings that don't seem to have been modernized, which is the trend in Toronto that not as a purist, but come on, we're losing character day by day. Please hold on to something. I don't know if you can see this. We are getting just a little bit of snow coming down. I was hoping it was going to be a bright and sunny day, and that's a half truth. Sometimes we get sun, sometimes it goes behind these snow clouds. I forgot to mention that I put a mist filter on this lens. It's the one that's usually on my 18mm f2 on Fuji, but I figured, why not? I think there's a little bit too much discourse regarding Sony and the colors right out of camera not being as nice as Canon's or not being as flattering as Fuji's, but it just takes a little work to know the gear that you're using. Another thing about exploring neighborhoods you haven't been to in a long time, there's always little pockets that you may have not stepped before. Like, I would have never have discovered this if I didn't wander down an alley. It's about -8 right now in Toronto. My fingers feel like absolute trash. That's -8 Celsius, by the way. I think I'm gonna have to go into a warm coffee shop and get something nice right in the middle of this shoot, because my goodness, it is cold. So I'm a Canadian, obviously, but I don't think I was given the software of Canadians who enjoy the cold. I find this miserable. But the draw to create something has to be stronger than your feelings towards the weather, or else you'll never get anything done, especially in places that have such cold weather. So I'm back here. Okay, so quickly, this wasn't planned at all, but while I was there, while I was waiting for my coffee and the cake that I ordered, not a very good breakfast, I know, these two women were talking about the camera that I was holding, the Osmo Pocket 3, and thus they said, that is my dream camera. And I was like, oh, cool. And they had questions, and thus we had a 2-hour-long conversation right in the middle of my photo walk. And it was great. So I'm going to include a little bit of the footage where they took the camera and used it for the first time and spoke to it. They were very cool. There you go. You can talk about this conversation right now.
There you go.
I'll put you.
Hello, welcome.
You don't even have to talk.
Erin. Hi, my name's Jamai.
Namara. I don't know if it comes right. People always say L, but it's an N.
Namara and Jamai. We're originally from Uganda. We live in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we're creatives in different ways. Met Erin at a coffee shop, which is very lovely. This is our first time in this coffee shop.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. Yeah. So we're having a few conversations, talking to strangers. You know?
Yeah, talking to strangers, making new friends, New Year,
Yeah.
learning new things.
Exactly. And he currently has one of our favorite cameras. We're dream cameras. We want to get this Osmo Pocket. That's
and
our
that's how
dream.
the conversation started.
Yes.
And look at us now.
Anyways, don't forget to subscribe, because obviously we make content here and we educate, we entertain, we elevate, and
We do TikToks. I'm only on TikTok, so I don't have YouTube. Yeah. I'm a TikToker.
Oh yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jamai, Jemai, SSOZI, Jamai Sozi, period. And by the way, I do coffee shop / restaurant recommendations around Toronto, things to do in Toronto, if you're interested. Okay, we're gonna let Erin eat his food. Bye.
So this video took a turn. My original intention was to go out and take photos. I've got a lens, got a camera, just wanted to do something, but got cold, went inside a coffee shop and bonded directly about cameras and then about life and experience and intentionality with two lovely women from Uganda. I love archways and entrances like this. It's built-in depth. You know that I like bikes. I don't even own a bike, I don't think, anymore, but I just like taking pictures of them. Pictures of them. Wow. It is so cold, my mouth has stopped working. I've been trying to do more color pairing in my photos. Not intentionally going out to look for these things, but when I see them, I try and match them up. These reddish orange thing right here. I don't know if the photo works, but it's more of an exercise. Same thing over here, this gentleman's yellow jacket and the yellow sign. Not trying to overdo it, just something that I'm observing. This is about the start of downtown in Toronto, if you're not familiar. This is Bathurst and Bloor. I think a lot of today is signs, just sometimes on the outside of buildings or looking inside of buildings. A little bit of window shopping. I'm not exactly sure what that means metaphorically speaking, but here we are. Once again, I think this is another great example of color pairing. Wasn't specifically out looking for it, but arrived before me. I think I can get the reflection of the open sign. Okay, so quickly, once again, this wasn't planned, but when I was out taking photos right after the A&W, another person walked up and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you shooting with?" And I said, "My Sony A7iv and the Viltrox lens." And he's like, "Oh, I also shoot Sony." And he talked about a couple of his cameras and whatnot. And he all of a sudden said, "Do you want to sit down and talk over a coffee?" And normally I'd be like, "Yes, but I'm busy." But in this case, I was like, it's one of those days.
Sit that right there. There you go. Hello. What are you doing there?
Oh, well, at the time. Like, why did you pick up a camera to do street photography? Or, like, what is your history with photography?
Well, I grew up on Life magazine. So the photographs like Ansel Adams and some of the Life photographers, National Geographic photographers, they do phenomenal work. They really do some nice work. So I'd always had that in me. Somebody gave me a camera when I was young, a little 35mm Pentax. But it wasn't until I was 65, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with myself? So that was something, one of the young ladies, we had a photo composition at work.
Yeah.
And they basically said, the young lady was running and said, "Why don't you get a camera, get out there and shoot?" Okay. So I wound up with this little Canon G9X. Went out, just basically shot stuff, tried different things. That was how I learned to take up photography.
Yeah.
Now I have 4 cameras.
That's a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody who has a lot of cameras, I know how many cameras is too many. 2 is too many. It's just been one of those days. So I just got out of a conversation with a gentleman named Mike, and I was out taking a photo of something, I don't even remember what it is at this point, and he asked about my camera, and then told me about his cameras, and then he asked if I wanted to get a coffee, and today I said yes. And you never really know who you're going to meet. Talked to him for about an hour, all about photography, his life, how he got into it, and there's just something special about photography that brings people together. It's something that everybody can do. The point of entry is quite low, if you have a phone or if you can get an old camera, you can just go out and take pictures and meet people. People of all backgrounds. What a strange day.